So after you learn the definition for GDP, and I want to ask you, can you find any problem with GDP? So one thing I want to mention, GDP is not the perfect way to measure the performance of one economy. So here we try to identify the most important weakness of GDP. So I give you a few minutes. You can think about it. Yes, so you should be able to think about at least two very important information. GDP is not included. So the first problem is it is not including the non-market activities. So you can see GDP measure are under the dollar values. So sometimes you will know that some activity may not be measured by the dollar values. So GDP measures exclude most goods and services produced that are not sold in the market. So for instance, the homemaker who cleans, washes, gardens, shops, and cooks produce goods of value, but they are not exchanged in the market and are thus not included in the GDP, such as they will never include the stay-home father or stay-home mother. So, but if you think about, they actually contribute to the economic performance. And so the inclusion of this non-market activity cause problem when comparing living standards. So as a homemaker enter the workforce and pay for housekeeping services, current GDP figures might exaggerate increase in GDP because services are now provided through the market or are included in GDP. So that's the number one weakness of the GDP, using GDP to measure the performance of one economy. And the second problem for the GDP is usually not include unreported income. So the GDP statistics fail to capture market activities that are not reported to tax or census authorities. So the underground economy is motivated by tax avoidance or the desire to conceal illegal activities like money laundering, and those activities actually the transaction happening, but since it's not being reported, so actually those activities were not included to the GDP. So keep in mind, GDP is a way to measure the performance of one economy, but they have two very important problems. So the number one is it is not included in non-market activities, as in sometimes they will underestimate the value of the non-market transactions. And the second problem is it will not include unreported income. So those illegal activity which will increase or decrease GDP but will not be included since they are not reported. So those are the problems for GDP.